All right. Good morning, my friends. I am Miss Jill. I am here from the Kenton County Public Library, and we are having some maybe technical difficulties. So give me one moment, please. We're working on our audio. We're using a new app today. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. It looks like, so Brian and I have Brian here from Cool Critters. We don't have audio on our end, so thanks for bearing with us. So we are just hoping for the best. And Brian can't let me know that there is audio on his end. So I'm going to send him a quick message to let him know that you all can indeed hear us. Like I said, we're using a new application today, and we have not used it before. So we're having a couple of technical problems, but hopefully you'll be able to hear him as well and shoot him a really quick message. Okay. Okay. All right, my friends. So, like I said, I am Miss Jill. I work primarily at the Kenton County Public Library at the Erlanger branch. I'm a children's librarian there. You've possibly seen me around or seen me here on Facebook doing some of these videos. I am here today just to introduce you to Mr. Brian. He's here from Cool Critters, and he's going to show us a bunch of really fun animals today. Like I said, he and I were having some tech problems this morning. We're hoping that his tech works. If it doesn't, we will definitely have him on again, so that way you can check him out. And here we go. Here's Mr. Brian. Looks like Mr. Brian had some technical difficulties as well. Let's see if we can get him joined. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Here we go, Mr. Brian.
How about, oh, hey. So I'm hoping that at this point you guys can hear me. I apologize for any kind of technical problems we're having right now. Marge is back there enjoying it. If you guys can hear me, I am Brian. I do run and own this Cool Critters Outreach organization. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. What we do what we call education and rescue work. So basically, we have a whole bunch of animals in our home, and all these animals used to belong to other people. They're all rescue pets. Everything once belonged to someone else. They decided for whatever reason they could no longer care for it. Sometimes the animal gets too big, they get too mean. The owner passes away and the family doesn't have any interest in it. So whatever the case is, we do take the animals in as long as we have space, and we can care for them. Then we get to bring them out and we do presentations. So today's presentation is going to be obviously here online because of everything going on. I hope you guys are all out there staying safe. Today you're going to see a few animals that we have, a couple of them that we don't typically get to bring out to presentations when we're doing them live because they're just not, they're not good enough to be out for a presentation, in the sense of, for example, Marge, the one behind me, the bird behind me, she's not real comfortable going out into big situations and large groups and that. So, and she's also not the friendliest with other people. She likes us, but pretty much everybody else, you know, she can leave it alone. That's fine. And that's normal. Let me get her down real quick. Come here, baby. So this is Marge. Oh, come here, baby. There we go. Marge is an African gray parrot. I got a laptop down here underneath here. I'm gonna cover that up so she doesn't. She's throwing a fit at me. She hates getting on screen. So this is Marge. Marge is an African gray parrot, like I mentioned. We're not quite sure how old Marge is. When we got Marge in, she was basically, we were kind of fooled. We were told we were going to watch her for a couple of weeks while the family moved, and they just never came back. Now, an African gray parrot is an animal that typically, it's considered a fairly large bird, a decent sized bird. And they're one of the biggest things about them, one of the most common things about them is how much they talk. These guys, their vocabulary can be about 1,000 words or so. Now, the issue with Marge, she can't talk at all. She can honk like a goose. She can make some different noise. And you saw her before, and I got her down, and she was bobbing her head and everything. She was kind of throwing a fit because that's just basically what she does when when she doesn't want to do something that you want her to do or whatever. Not sure why she can't talk. Most of them can talk, like you mentioned. We do have another bird in here in the room as well, and that's Quincy. And so you might hear some noise from her. She may start talking. Her favorite word happens. Well, she likes to talk about going to the store, be a good boy, Quincy, poop on the floor, that kind of thing. So she talks quite a bit, but Marge can't. And we think that's probably one of the reasons that we have her, is as we get these animals in, a lot of times people get these pets, they think it's really cool. They see them, they want to have a pet like this, they think it'd be a lot of fun to have, and then they get it and they don't quite research it enough. And doing a program here for the library is perfect because they always have books on how to care for these animals and different adaptations and things that these animals might need. And of course, you can get online and research a lot of that too. And you have to, before you get a pet, you've got to research it. A bird is not something you just get for fun and thinking that it's going to be an easy thing to care for. They are expensive, they are messy, they're dirty, you're always cleaning, and they need a lot of attention. Specifically, African gray parrots, they get bored very, very easily. And when they get bored, they get very destructive, kind of like a big dog. So she'll chew on anything from the wall to your doors to your shoes. I mean, she'll tear everything up just because she can. She is absolutely throwing a fit. They're incredibly intelligent. They have the mentality of about a 5-year-old, and they will throw a fit roughly, apparently like a 2-year-old. And I can tell you that's pretty accurate for these guys. They do like throw a little fit if you do something that they don't like. If you start laughing, she'll start laughing with you. So she can kind of join your conversation, which is pretty common for these birds as well. Again, Marge here, she can fly. These beautiful red feathers in the back, this is kind of what sets them apart from a lot of the other birds. Why can she not talk? I have no idea, but we really believe that we got her in. Like I mentioned before, the family that had her, they asked us if we could watch her while they moved. They were moving apartments or whatever. And it's very stressful on a bird to change their routine and change their surroundings. So of course we offered, yeah, we'll watch her, no problem. When they showed up, they kind of handed us the bird just in their hands. Here you go. No cage, no food, no anything. And we figured we were probably going to have her, and we were. Because she can't talk, she is missing a couple of toes. And when we got her in, she actually had some seizures. So what she would do, seizures, if you're not just, familiar with it, their muscles stiffen up completely. And for a bird, when that happens, if they're sitting on a perch and they're high up, they just fall off, and that can really injure them. So because she wasn't in the best situation, she was having some troubles. Now she's doing just fine. No more seizures. She's doing excellent, just excellent. I'll go put her back now. We do have a chat up, I believe. We have questions I think we're able to type in there. Doing this one on this app that we're using is kind of new to me. Let's get a reptile out. This is kind of what started the whole thing. When we started doing this, we really focused on, I won't say focused on reptiles. I was always been a fan of snakes, lizards and things. So it kind of started with that, and then it just blew up from there. So now we take in pretty much anything. We're not we love cats and dogs, but we don't really take in a lot of cats and dogs. We just don't have the space for it. Everything's run out of the house. We already have plenty of each. Let's look at this little girl first. Look at that belly. This is a blue-tongued skink. Look at that color. Now, the reason she's got that bright color underneath there, this is a lizard from Australia. You'll see that blue tongue come out at some point, hopefully. She smells with her tongue. She wants to know what's out there. So there we go. So she sticks that out. And the main reason it's blue, pardon me, the main reason that it is blue, it's a defense mechanism. So if a predator comes in after her, she lives in the tall grasslands throughout Australia. You will also find these guys, by the way, in a lot of people's yards. They like having them in the yards because they eat a lot of bugs and snails and grubs and things like that. So lots of greens. So they keep your yard fairly bug-free, at least in Australia. Now, again, the blue tongue, if a predator comes after her, what she's going to do is she stays really low to the ground. She'll kind of stare back. She'll kind of push up a little bit on her front legs, almost like a little push-up. She'll open her mouth as wide as she possibly can, and she'll stick that tongue out, kind of go, she'll stick that tongue out, and it shows that bright blue. Of course, it might show some of that bright color under her neck that you saw. And usually in the wild, bright colors mean they're dangerous, they're venomous or poisonous in some way, so you want to leave them alone. So what she'll do is she'll just completely open that mouth and take this huge defense stance and say, hey, I am big, I am tough. She's puffed her body up, she's hissing, she's puffing out a whole bunch of air. She's just making herself look really, really tough and mean, even though she's not. Basically, this is pretty much what she does. When they sit, they hide on it. They stay really low to the ground. Like I mentioned, if you look, you can see her tiny little legs here. Look at those little legs. Now those little legs, again, she doesn't really stand up real tall at all. She is pretty quick. She can go, quickly for a very short period of time. But again, with those little tiny legs, she just stays close to the ground. She doesn't really like to climb much of anything. Again, food-wise, lots of bugs. She also likes some fruits and veggies and berries and greens. So she'll kind of like an opportunistic eater. She'll eat pretty much whatever she can find. You'll find different species of these throughout Australia. They're going to be different colors, different patterns. Of course, their skin, it's all made of keratin, the same thing your fingernails are. And when they grow, they shed their skin very similar to a snake, except a snake, when a snake sheds, can shed its whole body in one piece for the most part. These guys kind of flake off. So when they start to shed, every time they're growing and they shed, it's just gonna flake off almost like a sunburn. The other thing is, if you see the little slits on the side, see the little slits, let me try to get that there. The little slits on the side, those are her ears. So she can hear you. I don't know what you're saying, but she can hear you. It's right about there. Okay. Now, it looks a little different right now because she just finished shedding. And when they shed, they actually have a bit of those scales in their ear. And they have that so they don't get any kind of dirt in there. So with that being said, I should be able to grab this. There we go, and pull out a little pocket. It's a little shed pocket. I know it's really tough to see. It's kind of blurry. But this is a little pocket of skin that just came off of her little ear. And again, all that does is help keep lots of dirt and things out of her ear, out of her little head. Beautiful little girl. Not sure how old she is. Talk about lifespans. I guess I forgot to mention that with the bird. The parrots can live, 50, 60, 70 years. These guys are more around 12, 15, potentially up to 20. It really depends on their care, how their care was before they came into you or before they came into us. We have no idea about her care. She was actually, she belonged to a teacher, and the teacher was moving to a different school, and the new school was not going to allow her to bring get her lizard with her. So that's why we have this beautiful skink. Now we do have some skinks and stuff around town. So if you're out and about, especially on a nice, warm, moist day like today, look under some different logs and things and little rocks. You might see some little like 5-line skinks and things like that. So we do have little lizards around here. They're not quite as big. Obviously, this is an Australian thing. They get real big down there. But here they're going to be very, very small, but there's definitely plenty of them out there. Gorgeous. To defend themselves, again, we talked about her opening her mouth. The little skinks that are around here, they can break their tail off. So if a predator comes after them, or if you guys chase them, they might pop their tail off. Now, it's a very last-ditch effort. They don't really like to do that, but they will if they have to. From what I read, I understand these guys can too. Now, this little girl is actually, she's missing about half of her tail. Not sure what happened. When these guys, when a lizard breaks their tail off, it breaks off right by their back feet. Kind of like just right behind there. And they can just pop it right off. And again, it's a very last ditch effort because I'm sure it's not comfortable. And of course, they'll have to grow one back. And she can grow one back, it'll take quite a while. But yeah, you just don't want to grab them by their tail. You don't want to try to pick them up, do anything like that. Just leave them be, let them do their thing. And again, before you get a pet, research it, because knowing this guy likes to live in the tall grasslands and hide all day, that's pretty much what she does in captivity as well. So if you think you're going to have a little lizard that's going to be fun to play with and everything else, she doesn't really want to be played with. She wants to be left alone and just be well fed, well cared for, and be on her own. So, all right, let's get her back. Put her back in here. We talked about snakes. I want to get a little snake out for you because, again, huge fan of snakes. I think they're fantastic. One of my favorite animals by far. This is also an Australian animal. He's being a little grouchy this morning. I don't know what his deal was. He's doing fine now. Here we have a carpet python. Look at that little girl, or guy, excuse me. This is Buddy. Buddy is, again, an Australian thing. Now, he's not full grown. These guys get to be, on average, about 11 to 13 feet long. So nothing huge, but big enough. In Ohio, you are not allowed to have snakes over 12 feet. So chances are this snake, I'm sure he won't quite get to 13 feet. Most of them stick around the 10, 11 foot range. And we basically are kind of expecting that with him too. They don't get real big around. They're not like a big python that you see, the big Burmese pythons and stuff that everybody likes to take around, or that's going on in Florida. These guys, they're kind of like a big glorified rat snake. They're not venomous at all. It is illegal in Ohio, where we're at, to own a venomous snake. It's also, if you're dealing with them, it's kind of, if you're working with them to make the anti-venom, that's one thing. But if you are just having a venomous snake to have a venomous snake, that's really, really dangerous. If this snake were to bite me, if he gets mad, like I said, it was kind of a grumpy day this morning. If he were to turn around and get me right now, the worst, absolute worst case scenario is I get a Band-Aid. Yes, they have teeth. He's a constrictor. He's a python. They have 6 rows of teeth. Snakes all have 6 rows of teeth, 2 on the bottom, 4 on top, and they're recurved, and they're curved in so that way they hold on to their prey as they're going to eat. So when he does go to eat, and right now he's eating large mice, small rats, medium rats, that kind of thing, he'll kind of rear back and he'll strike at it. He'll nail it with his teeth, and as soon as he gets onto it with his teeth, he wraps around it and squeezes it. So he's going to coil that thing until the animal is no longer breathing, and then he can start eating. It's going to take a few minutes for all that to happen, and he'll take his sweet little time. Once he has that food in his grasp, he doesn't want to let go. So as long as it takes to make sure that happens, he'll do it. Now, he only eats about every 10 to 14 days or so. He's actually going to be eating today, which is pretty cool. Got a big shipment of mice and rats in yesterday, which we're really, really excited about. So he'll eat usually, I don't know, a couple of rats or so, several large mice. And then after he eats, he'll have this big lump right in his belly here. We don't hold on to him after that. We just kind of leave him be. As soon as that happens, if you start picking him up and you start moving him around and you start holding him and everything else, a lot of times they get sick. They will regurgitate their food. They will actually throw up. And obviously, it's not a fun thing for anyone to do, including snakes. So as soon as they eat, we just leave them be. They do what they need to do. And as soon as they go to the bathroom, that is when we can handle them and we take them out again. See this color and this pattern, this beautiful pattern here. This is all camouflage. Now, if he's hanging on the ground in a bunch of sticks and leaves and dirt, you're not going to see him real well. He's going to blend in absolutely perfect. When he's climbing a tree, which he loves to do, they are arboreal. They love to be up in trees. Even the light color on his belly, he's got a lot of this lighter color. That is all camouflage as well. And the way that's camouflage is when he is up in a tree, he's kind of hanging up on a branch this way, and you are underneath him, or an animal's underneath him, and you look up, you're going to see the light color of the sky, and against the light color, or his belly against that light color of the sky, and that's going to be perfect camouflage for him. And that way nothing can get him. Food-wise, we feed him mice and rats. In the wild, these guys eat mice and rats and birds and eggs and all sorts of little things. Beautiful, beautiful snake. Don't know how old he is. We actually got him from a young man who went off to college. So kids that are out there, when you're looking at getting a pet, told you about researching it, one of the things you got to do is know how long they're going to live. So snakes typically about 20 years or so. And you got to think, in those 20 years, I know things are going to change. Should I really get a snake? Because you can't take it to college with you. At least you can't live in the dorms and have a snake with you. So that means your family has to take care of it. And that's exactly what happened here, is this guy's family was going to take care of it. And they did a really good job until the snake bit the father, actually. From what I understand, he got bit because it was during a routine cleaning. Here's the deal. Snakes don't really get to know you. They don't really care about you. They don't love you. They get used to kind of what you're doing. So every week, the gentleman that was caring for the snake, he would open the lid and put a mouse in and then close the lid. And next week, he'd open the lid, put a mouse in, and close the lid. So the snake gets used to, hey, every time that lid opens up, I get fed. Well, after several weeks, Dad decided it was time to clean the cage. He opened the lid. Snake is ready for a big mouse. Dad puts his hand in. Snake's thinking huge mouse. Dad gets bit and gets scared. Now, again, worst case with these guys is a Band-Aid as long as you know what's going on. You don't want to pull back or anything because their teeth are recurved. If you pull backwards, that's going to hurt you and it's going to hurt the snake a lot worse. So you just let them get you. But again, you get scared. We understand it happens quite a bit. And that's why we have him. By the way, I want to show you something that's really cool about him. He's very, very flexible. They're snakes. They have lots of bones. They have more bones than we do, but their bones are just a bit different. So I can actually take him and I can tie him up a little. As long as I don't pull tight, we're fine, because they'll pull themselves like this anyway. Check that out here. So he's in a little knot there. This doesn't hurt him. If I were to pull tight, I would hurt him. But you see this, now he'll pull himself out of it. This uses all those muscles there to make sure that happens. They're incredibly powerful. Just incredibly powerful. Gotta love them. All right, let's show you a couple other things real quick. Let's show you this little guy. Now, another one of my favorite types of animals, for whatever reason, I'm a huge fan of spiders. So if you don't like spiders, you might want to look away. But if you do, check that out. This is a rose hair tarantula. Let me try to get him up a little bit better for you. Look at that. So this is a tarantula from South America. He is full grown. And I'm not real concerned about him biting me. If he were to bite me, yes, he still has venom, but the venom's more like a bee sting. So if he gets me, I'll be just fine. He hasn't done it yet, so I'm hoping it doesn't happen today. But you never know what's going to go on. I'm not real concerned about that. My biggest concern is if you look at his abdomen back here, you see he's kind of got a little bald spot on there. There we go. So this bald spot, that's Marge, she's laughing at us. So the bald spot on this tarantula, what they do when they get scared, they go ahead and they turn around and they kick the hairs that are on their body. They kick those off into the eyes, and it gets in the eyes and nose of whatever predator's coming after him. Gives him time to run away because it makes you itch. For us, it does. It makes us itch really bad. Now, the two things, and I want to show you this real quick too, these two things here, those are spinnerets. So this is where he spins his web, and I'm actually pulling a web off of him now. It's, again, really tough to see. But I can get a little web here because these guys, when they spin their web, they do not spin their web up in a corner. They spin their web on the ground. So what they do, this is all day, by the way. When you have animals in your house, that kind of noise is all day, every day. Think twice about getting a bird. So what they'll do to spin their web, they're on the ground. They'll find a log or a rock or something, and they'll dig a little burrow underneath there. Then they'll spin their web right out front of that burrow, and they'll back down into the burrow, and they'll put their front pedipalps on there. When you look at them right now, those two smallest front legs right in the middle there, those aren't really legs, they're called pedipalps. They're like little feelers. And what they'll do, he'll back down in that burrow, and he'll put those pedipalps right on that web, and he'll just sit there. And when a cricket or a worm or something comes by and it hits that web, they don't get stuck, and he doesn't wrap them up in it. What he'll do is he'll actually, it's kind of like going through thick mud. So he's going to it's going to walk through it. He's going to feel that. He'll jump on it and pounce on them. That's when he takes those fangs and sticks the fangs right into whatever animal he's going for. And again, a lot of times, will you be quiet back there? A lot of times, it's crickets, it's worms, it's little grasshoppers. They can eat little mice and things like that, little birds, whatever. That venom that they have, as soon as they inject that venom, it turns their insides into like a soup. And then their stomach acts more like a vacuum than anything else, and he can slurp up whatever food he's got there, and he'll be just fine. They don't eat a whole lot, so he only eats, we offer him maybe a dozen crickets a month. It's not real difficult to care for one of these guys, but they can live in captivity. These guys can live about 20 years. Now, in the wild, it's usually the females will live about 20 and the males live about 5. But in captivity, they both can do right about 20. As they grow, they do have an exoskeleton, so they will molt. So what they're going to do is they'll flip over on their back. They'll stop eating for usually like a week or two. They're kind of, slimming down. What they'll do is they'll flip over on their back and they kind of peel themselves out of their shell. They'll push their old body off of them. And then what you'll have left is two spiders. You have the real one, and then you'll have one that looks just like him. It's just his molt. After they molt, after that happens, we can't really feed them right away, because if we do, even though he eats little crickets and things, a cricket could actually take him down. Get him moved again. A cricket could take him down and possibly kill him, and we wouldn't want that to happen. So after he molts, we have to wait a week or two before he eats anything. In the wild, they'll just hide. Crazy, beautiful little animal. Again, not for everybody, I understand. And we've got a couple tarantulas right now. We've got this one, and we have another one that's called an orange baboon tarantula that somebody had given us, and we don't handle that one. He's a bit more aggressive. He's a lot faster. So we just kind of make sure that nobody gets to handle that guy. All right, let me turn this around real quick. Let me get another critter out for you. Get another one out here for you real quick. Sorry about that. Talking about making sure you know and you do your research, you know what you're getting into before you get it. Check this little guy out. I'm going to use this towel here for her. Beautiful animal. There we are. A RedFoot tortoise. Now, real quick, I do have a towel underneath her. This is a tortoise. This is not a turtle. And the main difference is turtles can swim, tortoises cannot. So if she goes in water above her neck, she's in a whole lot of trouble. This is a South American tortoise. And because she lives on land, because I have her up in the air here and I'm holding her up so you guys can see her, it does scare her. And a lot of times when tortoises get scared, they pee and they poo everywhere. So that's why I have the towel to catch all that, because pretty much every time I hold her up, she does that. She hates being off the ground. So she is full grown. We're guessing her age is somewhere between 15 and 20, kind of based on what we were told. But again, we're not 100% sure of her age. We can kind of guess it, and it's pretty much right on point. The shell, nice and solid, made of bone. So she can feel when you touch her. She's got a spine right down here. She can feel every time you touch her. So you never want to knock on a turtle or a tortoise. It does not feel good to them. It can really hurt them. One of the things that's super important besides the right diet, which for these guys is mainly a lot of greens. They'll eat some fruits and veggies as well. Oh, I got some poo on my finger now. They'll eat some fresh greens. They'll eat occasionally some worms and that kind of stuff. But usually it's a lot of collard greens, mustard greens, kale, turnip greens, that kind of stuff. She loves dandelion greens. So she's all over eating lots and lots of food. But again, in order for everything to really go right, she has to have the sunlight. The UV rays from the sun cause a reaction in their body that produces vitamins so they grow properly. If you don't give them those vitamins, they're not going to grow right. And the things that get really impacted are their bones, which means their shell. Their shell might become soft. It might become malformed where it doesn't look quite as good as this. So you want to make sure that they get natural sunlight, they get the proper UV bulbs, whatever it is they need, you have to make sure you're able to supply them with that. Now, of course, this color and this pattern, this is all camouflage. She wants to look like a rock. When she is on the ground and she's walking around, if something scares her, of course, she'll pull herself in. And she's got these colors here because where they're from, there's a lot of bright colored plants and flowers. If she kind of curls in and pulls into her shell, you're not going to see her. She will look like a rock. She'll blend in perfectly, which is exactly what she wants. And again, these guys, their lifespan is about 50 years. 50 years to have a tortoise, and that's a really, really long time to have any pet. So you really, really have to think about if this is something that you're going to get, you really want to care for it for the rest of your life, the rest of their life too. And whether your plans, if something happens to you and you still have this long-lived animal. We have plans in place for anything that's going to outlive us. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to show you one more, and then we'll hop off of here. Wipe off my hands a bit. When you work with animals, you get dirty. Kids, for any of you out there that are thinking, hey, I want to be a vet or work with animals or whatever when I get older, that is fantastic. We would love to have you in that field. Just understand you're going to probably get bit. Well, you're going to get bit, scratched, peed on, and pooped on. It's just part of the job. Let's end this session with one more animal. He's really cute. We'll go with something cute and furry for you. Oh, boom. His name is Dean. Dean is a ferret. Now, a ferret is an animal that you can find in the wild. The only wild ferret, though, is a black-footed ferret. It lives out west. It's not a relative of this guy. These are a relative of what's called the European polecat. Now, they were bred to hunt rabbits mainly, and they're still used in some places to hunt rabbits, but for the most part, they're just pets. They have a smell about them. It's a smell that you cannot get rid of. There are products on the market that you can use to put in their food, their water, or whatever, and you know, they say it works. I've tried some of them and I've had no luck. Basically, they just stink, and that smell comes from the European polecat part of them, where it kept predators away from them. So if you go up to something and you want to eat it or you mess with it and it's really stinky, you just leave it alone, and that's basically what this is. Now, a ferret, they live in groups, and a group of ferrets is called a business. So they don't like to be alone. So when you do get a ferret as a pet, you typically want to get two. They're super friendly. They're really smart. They love to climb around. One of their favorite things to do is sleep, and they sleep usually about 15 to 20 hours a day. So they'll sleep for roughly 3 hours at a time. Sleep for about 3 hours at a time, and then they'll wake up, they'll go to the bathroom, they'll eat, they'll play, and then they'll go back to sleep. They have a really fast metabolism. That's why they have to eat so frequently, and that's why they sleep so much. Like I said, they'll just kind of nap off and on throughout the rest of the day and night. They're kind of up whenever they want to be. They also like to steal things. They are known as the smelly little thief. So when hang upside down. But if you have them as a pet and you're letting them run around your house, which we do every time when you have an animal like this, you have to make sure you get it out and let it run around and play. So when we let them play, they like to steal typically shiny objects. So if you have your glasses hanging around, or if you have your car keys sitting around, or your phone, they'll grab it in their mouth and they'll run off with it and they'll hide it somewhere. And most ferrets have one favorite place to hide everything. Our ferrets like to hide everything underneath the bed. A lot of them will crawl into a couch, whatever. They like to chew on everything. They tear things up. They like to hide. They like to crawl into laundry baskets and just piles of laundry, in themselves. But they're so much fun. Again, love to play. They can be a little nippy sometimes, but when they play, they do what's called the weasel war dance. So they're just jumping around and they're nipping at each other. And it's kind of like a puppy playing when they nip at you, or if they start nipping the back of their neck or whatever. That's just completely normal for these guys. Yes, their bite can be really nasty, but the more you play with them, the more they get to know you, the more you love them, the better they're going to be and the nicer they're going to be. It's absolutely fantastic. They live about 6 to 10 years. We have zero idea how old this one is. We got them in. This is Dean. We have another one that her name is Sam. When we got them in, they had no names. They were just completely unwanted, and they didn't know anything about them. So that's why we have them. But they're healthy. They're happy. You don't really give them a bath. They like to swim, but the more you give them a bath, you kind of a little bit stinkier that they get. So you don't really bathe them. All right. Listen, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you really had a good time. Please definitely check out. Clearly put Dean down. He's going crazy. He wants to get down and run around. Please make sure that you follow the library page, follow the Cool Critters Outreach page as well. We do every Wednesday. We've been doing lunch with a certain animal. So I don't know what's coming up this week, this Wednesday for lunch with. We'll figure that one out here soon. We're trying to put a bunch of pictures and post videos and just really keep everybody engaged during this whole crazy time that we're in. We are looking forward to getting back out there and getting out to birthdays and schools and daycares and things. So we'll get there. But until then, we're doing online presentations and we are loving it. So thank you guys so very much. I hope you enjoy your wonderful day. Stay safe out there. Stay clean. Stay healthy. And we will see you all again very, very soon. You guys take care. Thanks again.
Technology, I'd muted myself so people couldn't hear me during the presentation. What I said was, thank you so much, Brian. It's always awesome. We love having you at the library. I'm definitely going to be checking out your Facebook page on Wednesdays for lunch with different critters. That sounds super fun. I hope all of you make sure to check that out. I know at the library, we're hoping to have Brian back again later in the summer, so be sure to check that out. If you missed any of our stream today or know someone who would love this who wasn't able to watch, our video will be up through the end of May. So you have a couple weeks to still go through and watch his entire presentation. And it looks like, yeah, there were no questions. I was going to see if there were any questions, but it looks like we were able to answer everything. And have a great rest of your day, guys. See you later.